Why did you decide to hire an ISA?
No, it's just a time thing. My job as a team leader is to generate leads for my team members. The making of the call is just a big part of it. The reason for hiring an ISA is to take it off my plate so I have time to do other things. He's consistently setting listing appointments. My team is going to those appointments.
If someone's considering hiring an ISA, what would you say to someone that's on the fence?
My honest answer would be do it.
All right, folks, we are back, and I got a good one here for you. We've got Andre Scaife from Arizona, and he has been kind enough to share a little bit of his time. He's a busy guy, but I really appreciate you jumping on, Andre, because he wants to talk about his, adventure, his case study, with an ISA. But first things first, Andre, why don't you, do a quick intro? Who is Andre? How long you been in the business? What does your business look like right now? And I'd love to segue into, given those facts, why did you decide to hire an ISA? Go for it, Andre.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Andre. I've been licensed since 2011, and I've been in real estate since the 90s. I was doing flips and whatnot as basically doing that as a side job while I had a full-time job. And, since I've been doing it full-time, I personally have did about 500 transactions, and I had started a team in 2021, I believe, and we have 70 people on our team. And the reason I got an ISA is because just a time thing. My job as a team leader is to generate leads for my team members. So and the making of the call is just a big part of it. I mean, you can't have business if you don't have listings or people who want to buy it. So I have used other ISA companies in the past, which I won't mention them, of course, and they would start off hot and then it would fizzle off. And I was kind of reluctant with our ISA, but I will say working with ISA Anthony and his coach Xavier, they they've been consistent because when I feel like my ISA is inconsistent, the coach, I have that conversation with the coach. We talk roughly every week, and he puts him back on track. So I happen to like that aspect of it because I do think sometimes that in the past I've just seen people get complacent. You say you want X amount of calls, and like they'll make I've seen because when you're tracking calls, you see somebody's making 100 calls. Mine is working 4 hours a day, so it's making 100 calls, and his test 200 calls, but then it drops like 50, 60, 70 calls, and that's not good. I want the consistency. And I also want the same conversion rate. And, to keep that up, to have the coach to, keep that up. When the numbers dip, he's, pushing it, he's getting the ISA to get it back up. So I think that was a big difference. So, like, the reason your question was the reason for hiring an ISA to take it off my plate so I had time to do other things. And, again, I feel like Power ISA has done a better job than the companies I've used before.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. And thanks for sharing that. I think the consistency issue is a big one, right? Like any other member of our teams, right? When you run a team, you want to get that. The ideal situation is you get that consistent performance, right? And it doesn't happen on its own. In my experience, it doesn't happen on its own. You gotta be paying attention. Yeah, and I'm glad that Power says kind of helped you, right, with that, solve that problem, right? Because anyone that manages people in this industry, like you got like one of the challenges is how do you get consistent performance from folks, even when they can be a little inconsistent sometimes, right? You want those standards to be high, right? You want performance to be there because then the team knows what to do, right? If someone's producing, then the team come into action. If they're not producing consistently, it's hard to get results, right? So I love that, Andre. And tell us a little bit more. So what was your goal when you first brought on that ISA? Was it calling inbound leads? Was it prospecting? What was those initial goals when you brought someone on that you wanted them to help your team with?
It's more prospecting, getting listings. We were trying to several different things before at the beginning, and then we narrowed it down to the things that are most have the highest conversion rate. Because we were doing. I have a couple sources that I get, and then like if I make the initial call and I don't reach them, which happens, then I have the ISA call, and we do other things such as expire circle prospecting and things like that. And the things that and we've done a few other things, but again, we just narrowed it down to the things that are the most consistent, the things
Most
where we're
productive.
getting the most conversion, where we're getting the most answered phone calls, the most yeses, and so we've got it pretty streamlined now. And it's probably been I don't remember when I started with Power ISA. I want to say because it's currently towards the end of October. I want to say it was over the summer, I believe. So I think well May,
Yeah.
somewhere in May, June, something.
Yeah. A
I'm
few
not
months
sure.
ago. Yeah. 3, 4
Yeah.
months ago.
So, we've in narrowing it down, we've gotten much better. We're getting more consistent listing appointments. And,
Awesome.
so it's funny because like the way I see it, I mean, I've had some days where I've had, he said 3, 4 appointments in a day, which is amazing. Like if you work in this
Yeah.
business, 3 listing appointments set in one day is crazy. And with the consistency thing, because I would be disappointed if I'm getting now if you're getting 3 or 4 in one day, that's not normal. Then that's kind of hard to keep up. But if I'm getting 3 or 4 in a day, 2 days in a row, then I get zeros 2, 3 days in a row. I don't like that. Like if it
Yeah.
goes from 3 to 2, or even 3 to 1, I think that's great. But but again, the consistency. But to answer your question, which is, what are they calling? Like right now, I have another lead source called Homelight, so he's calling the ones that I don't initially reach. And then in
Love it.
addition to that, expired and divorce and probates. So those are the 4 lists that he's touching.
I got you. I got you. Oh yeah, and that's great because Homelight is a great lead source. You got to be a closer, right, to really have success with something like Homelight. But you're right. The biggest challenge with those kinds of leads, kind of pay it closing kind of leads, is talking to the person, right? Like reaching out to
Mhm.
them, getting in touch with them before anyone else, gets them. I think is a big challenge. But those can be phenomenal leads. Right? Probably Homelight is up there, right? One of the best lead
Oh,
sources
Homelight
out
is
there.
great. I think
And
the conversion rate on Homelight is very high. It's I want to say it's like 50%. Now, mind you, you're not getting a ton of those, but at
correct.
50% is great. Because it's like again, like when I get the lead, I'm making the first call. They don't always answer when I call. That's why the ISA is making the call, so you get that consistent follow up. So he's calling them, couple, 3, 4 times a week. So, that way we don't miss out on somebody because Homelight lets you know if if they send you somebody and they close with someone else, they actually send you a note saying you missed out on this commission. And I don't
Ouch.
like
Yeah.
getting those.
Yeah.
So
100%.
yeah.
100%. I love it. So Homelight's a big one for them. Expired. And which are the other two you mentioned? It's Homelight, expired,
So
and which other ones?
divorce and probates.
Oh, gotcha. The first one. Okay, wow. So you have a pretty broad spectrum of different leads out there. I love it. So
Yeah, I'm
making
trying
sure
to keep them
they're hitting
busy.
those. Yeah, 100%. And they're very targeted lists, right? Like they're very,
Mhm.
very. It's not like like you tried out Circle Prospect. It's very broad, wide open. We were talking about divorce leads, probate leads, even Homelight. That there's a specific customer need there, right? So I love that aspect of it. I like it.
Yeah,
And
the
and
circle
and
prospecting. I'm sorry, I was just saying the circle prospecting is one of the ones we did away with. It was just the conversion rate. Those 4 had the highest conversion rate, basically. In
for
the
sure.
circle prospecting, we actually had some conversations. There was like some people that I was talking to, some good leads, but the closing rate was just way better with the
Yeah.
4 that I mentioned. So
Yeah, 100%. And Circle, and I talk to a lot of folks that implement Circle. The challenge with Circle is that it's a very low conversion rate, and it also takes a really long time to close, right? So it's really you got to go into it like a mailer campaign. It's going to take 6 months to warm up that audience, and then maybe another, really to start seeing some ROI. Not you might not even be positive ROI the first few months after those 6 months, but it's kind of a long-term play. It just takes longer. It's a lower conversion rate, and the time is a lot longer. So I agree with you. I would have guessed that any one of those 4 lead sources probably would have given you better results, earlier because they're really good lead sources. And if at any point, Andre, though, you've got less lists right there, I would say maybe you trickle in a little bit of circle prospecting later. But if you've got those lists and you got plenty of people on them, keep doing what you're doing, right? And like what you're doing is working. Keep doing what you're doing. So I absolutely love that. And speaking of working, right? What have been the results so far, Andre? Tell us, from the different lead sources, what have been the results of your ISA helping you make those calls? They're backing you up on some of these calls. They're doing the initial outreach on some of these other calls. What have been the results so far?
the results are great. Like I've mentioned that he's getting consistently setting listing appointments. My team is going to those appointments, and the thing that I really like is like because for me it's like he works at a certain time, and so I have to know to pay attention to how we communicate during that time. because I might be busy or something, but I was like, let me take a peek and see if he set an appointment. And I do tell him don't set an appointment for the same day because I need to have it on my calendar. But that has happened. It's had times where he's like, he'll set an appointment for that evening, or he might try to. He's tried to. We were transferring phone calls directly to me, but I just realized that that's a horrible idea because again, I'm busy. I don't want to keep myself
100%.
sitting still for those hours, so we had to get away from that. But I mean, that is an option. Like if you've had somebody who is dedicated to just taking inbound calls on your team, and it's a live transfer, like he's on the phone with them and they're ready to talk to you. And I might not be ready at that time because I don't know who's coming. I don't have any notes in front of me at the time. So we kind of got away from that. But I mean, for somebody who wants to take that, it's a good thing because why? I mean, you have the person on the phone. It's a warm body that's ready to sell. The reason they want to talk to you is because they want to sell their property, and I think that's a great thing. I just don't have the time for it. What I mean when I say I don't have the time, I have the time for my business, but a surprise call when I'm not prepared, I would prefer to be prepared. But I
100%.
mean, go ahead.
Yeah, as a leader, it's about prioritization, right? I mean, there's 24 hours in a day, right? You probably should sleep a few of them, right? So what do you do with the rest? It's because everything, there's always work to do. There's an infinite amount of stuff you could do with limited resources, time and energy and money, right? What's the best use of your time? And probably that initial cold outreach is not a great use of your time, right? That's a it's a $10 an hour activity, $12 an hour activity, $15 an hour activity. Your hourly rate, is way more than that, right? So you should
Yeah,
focus on the highest value activity, which is talking to a motivated buyer, motivated seller, like that, and preferably seller, a motivated seller who then wants to buy for sure. But talking to them and consulting with them and giving them advice and meeting with them, that's $1,000 an hour activity
yeah.
versus the 100 calls that it takes to get in front of them, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, he's making 150, 200 calls a day. And, if you're setting, you imagine if you're setting two appointments out of 200 calls, that's a 1% rate. Now, mind you, a lot of those people are not answering the phone. And, you take into account how many people he's talking to. But you're right. Like that time to get the two people that he set the appointment for, they're ready to sell their property and they want to talk to me. So when I talk to them, obviously, is using, as you said, the best use of my time. The way I was coached and actually, if you guys one of the Gary Keller books that we were talking about, which is DPAs, dollar producing activity, and talking to people who are ready to sell is a dollar producing activity. Calling a couple hundred people to get one or two appointments is not, it is, but the amount that it's worth is much less as you can
100%, 100%. And we're just, we're talking about, this book, The One Thing. What for most agents, 90% of agents, what is the number one thing they should be doing to grow their business is booking appointments, taking appointments. Is that, and that's kind of it.
Yeah,
Everything, what's the one thing you can do that will grow your business? Booking those appointments, attending those appointments. Like that's really the number, one thing people should focus on. That will grow your business. Like I don't, even if you don't close a lot of them, if you're so on the close, you're still going to grow your business. If you're spending your time every single day, you or your team, and I say booking appointments and attending those appointments, like that's it. That's like one of the key activities,
no,
and
definitely.
too many agents, I don't want to say they neglect it, but they either don't know how to do it or they're reluctant to do it, right? Like they
Yeah,
might not know how, maybe newer in the industry, maybe not successful, or they're reluctant. They know what to do. They know what to do. It's just, man, that's a grind, right? I'd rather do something
yeah.
else in the meantime. So yeah, 100%. And I think, adding leverage is just smart. It's a smart way to do it and to grow your business. The goal is to grow. How do you make your
Mhm.
time more efficient? Instead of spending your time making those 200 calls, spend more time talking to motivated sellers.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. I also coach newer real estate agents. I've done it for a couple of years
Love
now.
it.
And what you said. I say to everybody, like somebody had told me some years ago, and I kind of regurgitate this to new people is the you're in a business of lead generation. If you do that, everything else takes place. Like you can understand everything about real estate. You can know real estate up and down, know all of the laws, and you can be a great salesperson. But if you don't talk to people who want to buy and sell, you're going to be broke. That's the bottom line. That is more
Period.
important than everything else. Matter of fact, if you spend your time lead generating and finding people who want to buy and sell, and you don't know, you're not a great salesperson, and you don't know all of the rules in real estate. You're going to make more money than the people who do, because that is the
100%.
most important thing.
Yeah, and for some reason, Andre, that can be a controversial opinion for some reason. I don't know why. That
Yeah,
I'm 100% with you on that one. If you are the master of contracts inside and out, you can probably be a pretty good transaction coordinator, right? If you're the master of contracts.
yes,
If you're the
exactly.
master of lead generation, you're the owner of the team.
Yes,
If you're the master of lead generation, so which one of the two would you like to be? Again, no. Before people send me the hate messages, you should know contracts. You should know all these things for sure.
yes, you
But if you're
definitely
gonna
should.
be a
Yes,
yeah, if you're gonna be a master at something, I'd rather be the master of lead generation because you're the owner versus the master of the contracts. Because I can hire a transaction coordinator to help me fill out the contract. I mean, if it came to that, I could hire someone to probably do a pretty good job with that, right? But it's you're not going to hire someone to do lead generation for your company. It doesn't really work that way. So I agree
exactly.
with you 100%. This is first and foremost a sales job. Another controversial statement for some reason. First and foremost, a sales job, which means to be successful in real estate, we should do what salespeople do, what professional salespeople do: generate leads, close deals. That is what really successful people in sales do. But I'm preaching to the choir here, Andre. I love it because a lot of new agents need to hear that message, and hear it again, and then hear it again, and hear it again. Because and there's a lot of material out there. There's the cable shows, HGTV, and I love those shows. I'm a huge fan of those shows. But
Mhm.
I've been in this business long enough to know that's one part of the business. They don't show the hard part. They don't show the calls and the follow-ups and the follow-ups and the
Definitely.
follow-ups and the voicemails you have to get and everything to meet with those clients. They just show the interesting part for TV. I get it. But there's a lot of
Mhm.
work that comes, kind of before that. So and running a large team, your problem was only larger. Right? It's like not just how to generate business for Andre, how to generate business and feed the team. You're making it rain for a group of agents.
Yes. I want to say two things to what you said. The first thing is, you're right. You do need to know how to do the contracts and all that. So I don't want to make it sound like you don't need to do that. Yes, you do have to know how to do that. But as you pointed out, a transaction coordinator. I actually have a transaction coordinator. She gets $250 per transaction. My average commission is $10,000. So if you think about which one do you want to master, to your point, if you do the math on that, total. But I do want to say one thing. I always say this is another thing that I say to newer agents is I always say I've never sold a house. And I mentioned earlier I've done roughly 500 transactions. I've never sold a house. My reason for saying that is this: when I meet someone, they want to buy or sell a house. I'm not convincing them to buy or sell a house. Like if you sell vacuum cleaners or whatever, you need to convince them they need a new one. Or a better example, in my opinion, is like a car salesman. So like if I was to sell cars, I need you to buy from this lot for me to make money, or else you can walk across the street and buy another car. So I need to convince you that here you're going to get the best deal, the best vehicle for your money. Now with real estate, if you want to sell your house, I have you. I'm not convincing you to sell your house. You already want to sell.
Right.
Or if you want to buy a house, as long as it's in Arizona or specifically Tucson, because I'm not driving to Phoenix, but if you want to buy a house, as long as you want to buy it in Tucson, I'm going to help you. I can help you. You don't need to talk
Regardless.
to anybody else. You don't need to try to get a better deal anywhere else. I'm the guy. So I don't feel like I convince anyone to do anything. I don't consider myself a salesperson. I consider myself someone who helps people, buy or sell real estate. And that's basically it. So I mean, that's when I talk to other agents about that, some agree, some disagree. So I guess it's a matter of opinion. But I don't feel like I'm
100%.
selling anything because I'm not
Yeah.
convincing you. I'm just helping.
100%. I agree with you because the biggest value we provide to the consumer. This is 2025, right? We don't inventory is out on the internet. All this, the AI is there, the tools are there, everything's there. The biggest value we provide, in my opinion, is being that consultant, like helping them achieve their goals, right? 100. I agree with that on that part, and I think words matter. How we express that matters. I think that being that consultant, being that expert, is what the consumer wants. Like that's what they need, and that's why real estate agents, are still around, right?
Yeah.
Every time you get these big, uh, uh, emergence of these new technologies, when listings went online, I wasn't around back then, but when listings came online and Zillow came out and Redfin, everyone was saying the agent's over because all they do is provide the listings. Now they're online. Why would you possibly need a real estate agent? I think it's because of what you said, right? You're helping them accomplish the goal, regardless of what home they're going to buy. It doesn't matter actually, right? Inventory is out there. It's transparent. Let me help you get the best deal possible. We're at whatever home you decide to choose. So and that's the right approach. That's the right approach when you're working for the client, right? Love it. So Andre, I know your time is valuable. I don't want to take up too much of it, but if I were to ask you a question, if someone's considering hiring an ISA, bringing them on to call, maybe their Homelight leads, their expireds, if they're considering that, what would you say to someone that's on the fence? Like maybe they've been burned in the past, right? Oh man, I tried these other companies. They promise, they talk a big game, but they don't walk the walk, right? What would you say to someone that's considering that?
My answer to that would be number one, do it. My honest answer would be do it because first of all, if you want to leverage your, like and they have experience. Like my ISA, he knew his scripts before I ever met him, and you have somebody who can do that for you. So they're taking a couple hours out of your day doing something that is necessary for you for your business, and it really makes no sense to not do it. I mean, you could do it yourself, and if you do it yourself, you're going to spend 2 4 hours a day, depending on your how much time you're spending. But
For sure.
my personally, I always felt like 2 hours is the bare minimum per day. So when I was doing it myself, at least 2 hours a day. So as you pointed out earlier, you have a limited amount of time. So you've spent, and I don't want to use the word wasted because it's not wasted, but you spent a good portion of your workday. If you have an 8 hour workday, you spend 25% of that just doing that one activity. And you can do 4 hours or how much every time you want to do, but you have to do it every day. You have to lead generate every day because we've talked about in this conversation. What is the most important thing? That is the most important thing. So leverage it out and let someone else do it because the amount of money you're going to pay them is way better than what your return on investment is going to be. So definitely do it. Now, the joking answer to that would be, if you don't want to hire ISA, how about I help you find people and I get a referral for it. And then I'll pay my ISA to do it. So I give
Hire
him
them
more
out, right?
hours or hire another ISA. And then I'll take 25% of all of your closings. And
There
then,
you go.
and I'm going to make a profit off of it anyway. So, yeah.
100%. I love it. Andre, thanks so much. Appreciate you. I know you're a busy guy. Thank you for making time for this. Thanks so much, Andre. Appreciate you.
All right.